Hi everyone, Sandman here. Today's video is brought to you by a donation from Chris, and here's what he has to say. Hi Sandman, this is Chris from Austin, Texas. I'm now 33 years old, and I've been following MGTOW now for about a year. And it was really interesting for me to get a front row seat of the carousel woman hitting the wall. You see, I have a female friend who's also my age and lives in another state. We've been friends since the 8th grade. We've never dated, and I view her as a sister. And we tell each other almost everything. She's never been married, and once upon a time, she was a very good-looking woman in her 20s. She still maintains a healthy body, but her age is starting to show, especially with no makeup on. She's also a very astute businesswoman, but her romantic life is one flaming disaster after another, and I hear everything about it. And no, I'm not secretly white knighting and hoping to win her affections. Rather, I'm enjoying this candid learning opportunity. Because you see, I am, after all, MGTOW for life. In her 20s, she was a typical sorority girl, and then a carousel rider in a company that we both worked at. As an example, I was witness to her intimacy with two guys that we worked with, who were roommates in the same day. She also told me that she wouldn't be with the guy because she didn't like the size of his package. That's the type of girl that she was, and still is. Now in her 30s, guys will still be intimate with her, too many to count, but these relationships usually end with some guy pursuing another woman, which crushes her and torments her. She has now become absolutely unglued, and she asks me, why won't anyone see value in me? And she also blames her insecurities on her bad relationship with her father. It's gotten to the point where she asked me if she could actually send some revealing images of herself so I could critique her body. She's fully convinced that if she was just a little bit skinnier, it would all work out. And I said no to the pictures, and she's perfectly in shape. The last guy that she was with was a self-made millionaire, who dumped her for a slightly older, yet prettier woman. And I'm guessing that her profound remorse in this case has more to do with the resources that she missed getting than the potential romance. Although she constantly told me how lucky the guy was, and that she wasn't the type of woman that would focus on his money. This is the epitome of how I read how it goes. Pretty girl rides carousel in her 20s, gets constant validation, and guys chasing her, yet nothing concrete develops. The girl enters her 30s and starts losing the battle with younger women, yet still has the high standards that she had when she was at her prime. She can't get anyone to commit, and I suspect she isn't as focused on romance as she claims. But now more on her window of opportunity on kids, and locking down a husband with resources, which is now narrowing every single day. MGTOW end up talking a lot about marriage and divorce, but these never married 30-year-old women of desperation, you've got to see. They would never be needy like this at the age of 25, and I don't have the heart to tell her, when she calls me crying, actually wailing, what's actually going on. That her arrogance is basically caught up with her, and her carousel riding has probably made her less desirable. She's blind to reality as well as her past behavior, and it makes me wonder if the women that I meet in the city are basically all secretly this way while putting on a good facade of confidence and value. It's been instructive to watch this happen over the last 10 years, and I don't think I can actually tell her the truth. I welcome your analysis, Sandman. Well, Chris, thanks for your observations as well as donation. You see, I for one have no remorse for women like this anymore. Did we as men in our 20s get sympathy and remorse from women when we couldn't get a date or find a woman to be with when we were in our teens and 20s? Women never went through the pain of being a man, and they'll never understand because even in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they can still attract men. They just can't attract the good guys that they want, the guys they want to keep. That seems to be the main problem. They're going from caviar to sushi and complaining about it while the majority of men have been eating dog food our entire lives, or possibly even table scraps. Such are the problems of first world floozies. Chris, your friend is like many of today's women, which are no longer accepting reality. I used to firmly believe that once women passed the wall, they would realize it's now or never to have a family and find a man, and that they would just adjust their expectations and behavior accordingly, but they aren't. Your friend still has the high standards she had while she was in her 20s, and she will continue to do so until she's in her 40s, 50s, and even possibly 60s. Even when she can no longer have children, she'll pretend that she can as long as she doesn't hit menopause yet. I know women in their 40s and still think and act like they're in their 20s. The reality of age doesn't hit most women. They still think they have all the time in the world and act like it. And they act like the world actually owes them something. Men are adjusting to the new reality of getting older, but women aren't. By dating and dumping over and over again, we men have learned that women will chuck us into the garbage at some point so we don't get emotionally involved, because of the pain of getting discarded like a used feminine napkin over and over again has basically been too much for us to bear. So we become apathetic in our 30s and 40s to women. And women in their 30s need us to take them seriously and commit, because it's their time to land a man. But they have collectively damaged us so much emotionally that we'll never actually fit into their molds. Where have all the good men gone? They were emotionally, financially, and physically destroyed by the same women asking that question, while those women were still in their 20s. But I also know that some women out there are getting desperate and willing to take table scraps. A couple of days ago I was catching up with that girl, Sailor Spoon, that I was sort of seeing this time last year. And because she's in her early 30s, she hasn't really gone through that panic stage yet, and I don't think she ever will. But as soon as that first noticeable gray hair shows up, as well as wrinkles show up, she'll basically start getting root touch-ups and doing her hair a couple times a month. And the guy that she's currently seeing is working 6 days a week at a dead-end retail job. He has no car, and he has no prospects, and he even has a son from a previous marriage. I told her point blank that he's getting what he wants from you, Miss Sailor Spoon, and he's getting intimacy on a weekly basis, and he doesn't have to pay for it. He's too poor to own his own car and take you out to dinner, and you're trading yourself for his commitment. A commitment to a man that in this case is passive-aggressive and refuses to communicate with her. And this guy is using her, and she doesn't even realize it, or maybe she does and she just doesn't care. The reason I started talking to her again was about starting a possible YouTube channel, and I thought that we could work together in a partnership, but boy was I wrong. She doesn't want to share the profits 50-50, and says it's her idea so she deserves most of the profits. But I could just as easily hire someone else to do what she does, and cut her out altogether. There's nothing unique about her skills, and she says that she's bringing her skills to the table, and that I'm not bringing as much to the table by myself. Well, let's look at what I'm bringing to the table, shall we? First of all, I'm bringing my work gear, cameras, teleprompters, green screens, sound and editing equipment as well, plus my skills and effort as well as energy. She on the other hand wants the majority of the money, but doesn't want to do as much work. She still thinks she's young and pretty enough to get what she wants. But the panic is not set in, and like I said earlier, probably won't. I don't think that she'll ever realize that her value decreases with time. And Chris, I don't think your friend will either. To her, she's still that 21-year-old woman that could basically get all that male attention. And she will blame anything and everyone else besides herself at this point. There's nothing for her to panic about because she's pretending not to see her true marketplace value. When you've seen yourself as a special snowflake your entire life, how can you possibly start looking at yourself as a pile of horse manure? If a woman doesn't look in the mirror, then she doesn't see the wrinkles and gray hairs, so they aren't really there. She can just keep on keeping on. Nothing to see here, folks. Just keep moving along. Yes, these women are desperate, but they also won't show it physically. They'll continue to behave like entitled princesses, but will also pretend to be desperate. Their pretend game is about making people feel shame for them, so that their friends and families will point them to guys that they can date. They don't believe that they're desperate yet. They're just trying to get everyone else to do the work for them in order to find a man. While they were in their 20s, they could possibly get 10 guys a day to basically go out on dates with. But now they're in their 30s and they can only attract 5. And by selling a sad story to everyone, they're hoping that their coworkers, friends, and family will find those other 5 guys so they don't have to. Dating apps like Tinder are a complete ego boost for older women these days. They don't even care about dating those guys on Tinder. They just want to know that guys still find them attractive and are willing to contact them. Yesterday I was on Tinder and saw a woman that was 6 feet tall and looked like half her face was badly burned in a fire. I swiped to the right just to see what would happen, and lo and behold, we matched. I'm guessing that she swiped to the right on every single guy on Tinder. So I contacted her a few times, and she never got back to me. Her intention was never to really go out on a date, but neither was mine. Instead, it was an ego boost to know that guys were still after her. Women are desperate for a good man. They can get all the men that they want, but the good men with money and status are elusive. They're just as elusive as when they were basically in their 20s. Men with status and wealth are wising up to their power, and that's basically what these trollops don't want. As men, we age and we get more power, and women just panic when they get to 50 or 55. But before that point, most of them suspend their disbelief and pretend to behave like they're in their 20s instead of acting their age. But it takes many men well into their 30s and 40s before we realize that we gain power while women lose it over time. And most men can't accept this change because we've been beaten down by women so long in our lives. And once men realize their true power, it's often women that resent things, because women are the ones that have something to lose at that point, and they lose the power that they had when they were younger. So now with their new power, men that have money start to turn around and start to take advantage of women the way that women took advantage of them when they were younger. And many women still think they're the ones that have all the power and options. And when they complain about where have all the good men gone, what they're really complaining about is, Why are the good men with options using me instead of bending on one knee and doing everything that I tell them to do? Women, it seems, don't panic about their own looks. What they're panicking about is men having figured out the game and basically rendering them powerless. They're freaking out because men are getting less emotionally needy and thus more intelligent as each day goes on, while women are still stuck in the mentality of a 16-year-old girl. That's what women are panicking about. Anyways, that's it for my ranting for today. Thanks again, Chris, for your donation. And as for everyone else, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.